HOA Karen's son kept blocking my drive, so I made his car a write-off. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood where everyone mostly minds their business. But we do have an HOA, and trust me, that's where the real drama begins. I moved here for peace, but instead I got dragged into a silent war without even trying. Across the street lives a woman everyone calls Karen, and she lives up to the stereotype like it's a full-time job with benefits, complaining about lawn heights, fence colors, trash cans, even how loud birds chirp in the morning. But her son, maybe in his early 20s, was even worse. Loud music, constant revving, and worst of all, he always parked his car in front of my driveway, not slightly in the way, directly blocking it. I'd have to knock on their door every time I wanted to leave, and they would act like I was inconveniencing them. At first, I kept calm. I didn't want trouble. I asked politely. I explained respectfully. But politeness only works on people who respect others. And this family didn't know the meaning of the word. It got worse. Her son started leaving his car there deliberately when he knew I needed to leave for work early. I would knock, ring the bell, call, no answer. He'd casually come out after 20 minutes, yawning, acting surprised and annoyed. "Oh, you need to get out?" Like he didn't notice a giant driveway behind his car. One day, I missed a very important appointment because of it. And when I told them that wasn't okay, Karen stepped out like she was the queen of the street. "This is a public road. You don't own the street. My son can park wherever he wants. But blocking someone's driveway is illegal." I told her that. She smirked like laws were beneath her. I reported it to the HOA, thinking maybe they'd handle it. But the HOA president was her close friend, and they dismissed my complaint. "We'll work it out neighbor to neighbor." They didn't want to help. So I started documenting everything. Photos, timestamps, dates, conversations. Because something told me this wouldn't end with just words. Then came the day the real shift happened. It was raining heavily, and water pooled along the street gutter. The son parked his car again, blocking me completely. I had warned them many times. So this time I didn't knock. I didn't call. I didn't shout. I calmly grabbed my folders of documented proof and made a single phone call to the city parking enforcement and local towing service. When they arrived, the officer took one look at the photos, nodded, and wrote a fine on the spot. The tow truck hooked the car and dragged it away while Karen and her son came running outside screaming, like the world was ending. She yelled that I was ruining their lives, that I was petty, that I should have talked to them first. I simply said, "I did. For 3 months." She looked stunned, but still furious. They had to pay to get the car back, and I thought maybe that would be the end of it. I was wrong. They came back angrier, determined to teach me a lesson. From that point on, Karen and her son tried everything. Complaints to HOA about imaginary violations I wasn't committing. Reporting noise when I wasn't even home. Leaving trash near my driveway. It was childish and exhausting. But instead of retaliating emotionally, I kept collecting evidence. Every message, every photo, every petty attempt. The irony was, the HOA still defended them, brushing everything aside and calling everything misunderstandings. The neighborhood was beginning to notice too. People saw the drama, heard the shouting, watched the repeated blocking. I stayed calm publicly because I knew anger would just help them. And then the universe decided to step in. The son loved revving his engine, flooring the gas pedal like he was in some street racing movie. One afternoon, after blocking my drive again, he tried one of his dramatic revs. But what he didn't realize was that parking enforcement had placed him on a repeat violation watch. When his car revved too hard, it rolled backwards into the gutter where water had collected, and that small flood seeped into his engine compartment. A week later, mold, water damage, and corrosion totaled the engine. The insurance company marked the car as a complete write-off. I didn't touch the car. I didn't damage it. I didn't break a single law. But the son and Karen still tried to blame me. They stood in my driveway screaming, accusing me of sabotaging the street drain, accusing me of setting up their son. But by now, the neighborhood saw everything. People who used to stay silent finally stepped up. One neighbor spoke up about the constant blocking. Another admitted Karen had harassed them too. Another said they had recordings. Suddenly, all that fake authority Karen held shattered. She had made so many enemies and didn't even realize. The HOA, finally under pressure, had no choice but to act. They issued fines, official warnings, and removed her influence entirely. Watching Karen try to argue against actual evidence was like watching a balloon deflate in slow motion. Now things are quiet again. Peaceful. My driveway is always clear. The son rarely leaves the house, and when he does, he walks. Karen no longer controls anything here. She walks with her head down. Not because she's sad, but because everyone finally sees her clearly. And the best part? I didn't need revenge. I didn't destroy anything. I stayed patient, documented, followed the rules, and let consequences do what they do best. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply let people sabotage themselves. You just have to make sure every detail is written down. But the story didn't truly end there. See, people like Karen don't accept defeat. They don't apologize, they don't reflect, and they don't move on. Instead, they plot. And that's when the final twist arrived, quiet, subtle, and almost brilliant in how petty it was. About 2 weeks after the insurance wrote off her son's car, I noticed unfamiliar cars stopping in front of my house late at night. Engines idling, lights off, then driving away after a minute or two. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Maybe lost drivers. Maybe random visitors. But then one night, around 12:40 a.m., I heard footsteps. Slow, careful, deliberate footsteps outside my window. I stayed still and listened. Someone was trying not to be heard. I pulled out my phone and checked my outdoor security feed. Thankfully, I had upgraded everything during the earlier harassment. And there he was, Karen's son, walking around my property with a flashlight, holding what looked like spray paint. He was trying to vandalize my garage door, maybe leave some threat or message. It was desperate and stupid. But what he didn't know? My cameras weren't the only thing recording that night. A neighbor down the block, who had suffered his revving and antics before, had also installed cameras. And both angles caught everything. Clear face, clear actions, clear intent. I didn't step outside. I didn't shout. I didn't call him out. I let him finish. Because sometimes, people don't just dig their own grave, they decorate it. The next morning, before he could wake up and brag about what he thought was revenge, the police were already knocking on Karen's door. He was charged with property damage, trespassing, and attempted vandalism. Karen tried everything, crying about misunderstanding, begging, threatening lawsuits, blaming stress. But the evidence was clear. The police didn't care about HOA favoritism. The law didn't bend for entitlement. The son had to pay fines, attend mandatory community service, and receive probation. And the look on Karen's face when she realized she couldn't stop it, that was the real ending. Not the car, not the tow, not the neighborhood turning against her. The real ending was when she realized the rules she ignored her whole life were finally the ones closing in on her.